And this is a statement that will be committed to the committee or lands committee. A statement that will be requested by the Honorable Member for Lunga Lunga, Honorable Chief Foromondo Mangale, with regards to the compensation for landowners of Ramisi in Kwale County. The members of the National Assembly will also this morning, as they convene, consider a special motion. And this motion is with regards to the appointment of a member of Parliament to the Parliamentary Service Commission. This is a motion that will be moved by the leader of the majority party, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. And this appointment of the member is the Senator Wahome Wamatinga. In this motion, the Honorable Leader of the Majority Party will be seeking to have the House approve the appointment of Senator Wahome Wamatinga to the Parliamentary Service Commission to fill the vacancy occasioned by the resignation of Senator John Nderitu Kinyua. This is a vacancy that was created following the resignation of Senator John Nderitu Kinyua, who initially held a position at the Parliamentary Service Commission. Following that resignation, that position of vacancy has to be filled, and the member who has been appointed to fill that particular vacancy is Senator Wahome Wamatinga, and the House this morning is expected to consider this particular business. That is the member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha Wangare, who also sits in the Speaker's panel. She will be presiding over this morning's sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we shall treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Sergeant at Arms, ring the bell for 10 minutes.
Well, Honorable Martha Wangare, the first chairperson of the speakers panel, who has now taken the chair. Remember, the prayer has been said and the chair has been taken, but the House lacks the requisite quorum, and this is as provided for in the House Standing Order at the commencement of House business, that at least 50 members should be seated inside the chambers for the House to be deemed to have achieved that particular quorum. If not, then that would necessitate that particular quorum bell that is currently on, of course, for the members who may be within the precincts of Parliament to be able to make their way into the chambers. And until then we shall go back to take a look at the business that this morning the members will be transacting. Remember, it is a sitting that came about following the businesses that the National Assembly has to conclude on and dispense with before it adjourns. And this morning, the sitting for this morning is one of the sittings that the members of the National Assembly approved to convene or to hold for them to be able to continue with considering those businesses. The coffee bill, a bill originating from the Senate, co-sponsored by the leader of the majority party here at the National Assembly, is a bill that is currently under consideration at the Committee of the Whole House stage. This is the stage where the amendments to the bill that may have been forwarded by members are considered. So consideration of it at the Committee of the Whole already took place, or rather began, at the floor of the House, at the Committee of the Whole House, and this morning it is part of the business that once members get to that particular business as lined up in the order of business for this morning, then they will be able to consider. I will take you back to the reports that the National Assembly received as the President delivered the State of the Nation address, which is part of the business that the members are considering. The measures taken, the annual report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values and principles of governance. A look at some of the national values and principles of governance. This is under Article 10, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution. Some of the national values and principles of governance include patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination and protection of the marginalized, good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, as well as sustainable development. These are the tenets that form the national values and principles of governance as provided for in the Constitution. As I had indicated earlier, this is not the first report with regards to that, but the 11th report. The first report was in 2014, and the government has continued to mainstream, promote, and report on the national values and principles of governance as required by the Constitution. And this has ensured that national values and principles of governance continue to remain the foundation of the national vision, or rather the country's national vision, define our identity as a nation, and impact on our socio-economic and political development. And this report now is a comprehensive scorecard on how government has applied public resources vis-a-vis the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution. And this report is therefore an assessment of the status of realization of the constitutional provisions that are outlined in the Article 4(2) of the Constitution, also Article 10(1) of the Constitution, Article 10(2) of the Constitution, Article 4, Subarticle 2 provides that the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on the national values and principles of governance. Article 10(1) provides that the national values bind all state organs, state officers, public officers, and all persons whenever they apply or interpret the Constitution, enact, apply, or interpret any law, or make or implement public policy decisions. So these are just but part of the national values that are entrenched in this particular report with regards on how the government has been able to implement and abide by the provisions of the Constitution. If you're just joining us, is that the House is about to commence its business. The prayer has been said, the chair has been taken. But you can clearly see that the House does not have enough members for it to be able to be deemed to have achieved that quorum. At least 50 members should be seated. The members that I can see from this angle are around 5 or 6. We need about 50. This is as provided for in the House Standing Order, but the House rules also provide that at the lapse of the 10 minutes, remember the quorum bell currently is for 10 minutes, to give room for the members to be able to make their way into the chambers. At the lapse of the 10 minutes, there will be a further 5-minute quorum bell. At the lapse of those 5 minutes, if the quorum has not been achieved, then the Speaker may adjourn the House until the next sitting, which if that may be the case, then the next sitting will be this afternoon at 2:30. But we are hoping that quorum is achieved. Remember, this is a sitting that the House agreed on through a resolution for it to be able to conclude on matters that are still pending before the House and which need to be concluded or dispensed with before the House proceeds on the long recess. That is from the 6th of December. And what we are expecting to see is that members should be making their way into the chambers to allow the House attain that required quorum for the House to be able to commence its business. Part of the business that the members are continuing to transact is a consideration on the State of the Nation address speech that was delivered in Parliament by the President of the Republic of Kenya. Today will be marking day 3. Debate on that particular address, as provided for, should be concluded within 4 days. The debate began in yesterday's afternoon sitting.
Proceed. First order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Deputy Majority Whip.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 26, 2024, morning sitting. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the years ended 30th June 2021, 30th June 2022, and 30th June 2023, and the certificates therein in respect of Kenya High School, number 2, Sabuleni Secondary School, number 3, Waji Girls Secondary School, number 4, Kimunyu Secondary School, number 5, Gadhurini Secondary School, number 6, Kahugini Boys High School, number 7, Nakel Secondary School, number 8, Baringo High School, number 9, Mangu High School, number 10, JG Kereni Boys Secondary School, number 11, Osen Girls High School, number 12, Enomotasaini Girls Secondary School, number 13, Isinya Boys Secondary School, and number 14, Machakos School. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Okay, Chairperson for the Departmental Committee on Health, Honorable Kosa. The mic is on.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 26 November 2024, report of the Departmental Committee on Health on the budget implementation for financial year 2023-2024 for the following state departments. 1, for 1082, State Department for Medical Services, and 2, for 1083, State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Pukosa again, Health Committee.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts a report of the Departmental Committee on Health on the budget implementation for financial year 2023-2024 for the following state departments laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 November 2024. 1, for 1082, the State Department for Medical Services, and 2, for 1083, the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Chairperson for the Committee of Lands. A statement had been requested. Lunga Lunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Land regarding the implementation of a court order by the Environment and Land Court for compensation and land resettlement of the owners of Ramisi Phase 1, Block 5056, Kanana Nikabu in Kwale County. Honorable Speaker, Mkupuo Network Awareness, an nonpartisan community-based organization, represents the residents in occupation of Ramisi Phase 1, Block 5056, Kanana Nikabu in Kwale County, These residents have occupied the said land since pre-colonial times, having inherited the same land from their forefathers. In 2008, the government initiated a settlement scheme plan to formalize their occupation, which resulted in the issuance of offer letters to the residents. However, to date, no certificate of titles were issued. However, the residents were forcibly evicted and their structure demolished to facilitate occupation by MS Kwale International Sugar Company Limited, which had purportedly leased the land from the government. Honorable Speaker, the forced eviction meted out on the residents without compensation prompted the affected residents to file ELC petition number 43 of 2020 at the Environmental and Land Court in Kwale. The court ruled in favor and ordering that the government has an obligation to compensate and resettle the affected residents of the organization. The government was granted a period of 12 months to comply with the decree, which expired on 27 January 2024. Despite the lapse of the time frame, the government is yet to comply, causing undue hardship and suffering to the affected residents. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. 1, the measures in place by the Ministry of Lands, Public Works and Housing and Urban Development to comply with the decree of the court considering the Mkupo network awareness was to be compensated and its members resettled by 27th January 2024. Number 2, a report on the status of assessment made by the ministry to ensure all villages within Ramisi Phase 1 Block 5056 are duly concluded in the valuation report for compensation. And 3, an overview of the resettlement plan and the efforts that have been made to conduct awareness among the affected residents in their resettlements. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Chairperson for the Committee on Lands. How long will it take? Any member from the Lands Committee or Vice Chairperson? I think I'd leave it to you, Deputy Majority Whip.
Noted, Honorable Speaker, and they will give the report once we resume. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Debate on the President's address, day 3.
The Honorable Member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha Wangari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also record my thanks to the State of the Nation address by the President. And Madam Speaker, because I know we have limited time, I'll pick a few issues. That we are now on our second day, yes, 5 minutes. That we are on our second day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Allow me to start with that, Madam Speaker. And I want to laud the President because he pronounced himself clearly, even his meeting with women leaders, Madam Speaker, and committing even resources to fight this menace, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it cannot be normal that in the last 3 months, we have about 97 women who have been killed, mostly by intimate partners, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that means every month we have lost 30 women to gender-based violence, Madam Speaker. And even today, we have woken up to a woman being raped and stabbed in Murang'a. We have woken up yesterday to another one in Nakuru, another every in Laikipia. It cannot be normal, Madam Speaker. And I think the disconnect we are having right now is that the President pronounces himself, but the people supposed to take action are sleeping on the job. Madam Speaker, we have not had a statement from the Interior Ministry, even today, condemning these incidences, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, last year, A girl in my constituency, Jasmine Joki, from Kasambara village in Barok, was raped and killed brutally. A 12-year-old was raped and killed in broad daylight, Madam Speaker, as she left school. Madam Speaker, that was September 12, 2023. Suspects were arrested, DNA was harvested. It took 6 months to actually hear of that DNA again. Why? It was taken to Kisumu because we don't have any testing center in Nakuru. We don't have a testing center in Eldoret. We don't have testing centers in so many of these counties, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Interior will boast and say, we have spent billions in buying equipment to modernize our fighting equipment, Madam Speaker. Why is it so hard to spare small shillings to buy reagents that we wait for from South Africa to test for DNA to be able to tell whether someone has committed a rape or a defilement, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, why? Because it is not very appealing, because it doesn't have money. There is not much money people can eat from that, Madam Speaker, and it does not have the interest of the nation. Madam Speaker, we have to change this, and we have to get to a point where every county can be able to process DNA samples to enable, to ensure that we have these culprits behind doors, behind bars, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that case really pained me, because when you get a culprit who gets arrested, then tomorrow they are out on bail of 200, of 50,000, of 100,000, they go back to the families and taunt them. They actually tell them, you can do nothing to me, Madam Speaker. And I know people have said women should walk away, but how many are able to do that? Because others follow them, even when they try to walk away from relationships, Madam Speaker. And I say that as someone who has walked away from one which was violent, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, they will follow you, they will tap your phone, they will actually call your friends, they will threaten you. And if you don't have the financial independence, you are not able to walk away. So I would actually say that we are not doing well. We must loop in the judiciary. This issue of just giving them bail and they walk is another problem, Madam Speaker. You go to the police, gender desk are mere desks. Actually, I think they even moved the desks from the police, Madam Speaker, because the idea was to give women a safe place to actually report these issues when they happen. And it is not happening. The judiciary must have a fast lane to actually be able to curb the issue of gender-based violence. And that also applies to boys and men, Madam Speaker, that we also have safe spaces where they can report and talk about it, because the stigma is quite huge and it is associated by reporting any abuse meted on men or boys. Madam Speaker, that for me stood out. The other issue, Madam Speaker, is of course the economic growth. I hope that we can be able to translate this to the pockets of Kenyans so that they can feel what the president is talking about and not just percentages. That way we'll be able to feel, and we'll not need to say, even on the newspapers, we'll be able to feel and see members doing well and the public thriving, Madam Speaker. I thank you for that opportunity.
The Honorable John Mutunga, member for Tigania.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to make a few comments on the presidential address. Honorable Speaker, this address comes subject to Article 132(1)(c), which basically articulates measures towards realization of national values, principles of governance in this country. Honorable Speaker, these are the values that are clearly outlined in Article 10 of the Constitution. And we can put them into 4 key clusters, one being the loyalty to the Republic, the second on promotion and protection of the rights of individuals, the third one as integrity, and the fourth one as development. Honorable Speaker, I would like to pick a few values and ask certain questions that Kenyans, on the extent to which Kenyans attest to these values. But just one, Honorable Speaker, in my understanding, is commitment to the nation's progress and sovereignty. The extent to which we commit ourselves is wanting, Honorable Speaker. Upholding sovereignty is important so that we may balance the freedoms and also the freedoms with public policy. Honorable Speaker, to what extent do individuals within this particular country aligned to patriotism? How much progress have we made as a country? When a Kenyan is given an opportunity to express themselves, to what extent do we as Kenyans really talk about this country as our home and a place that we would like to live in? When you look at the media, to what extent is the media patriotic? Because most of the time you realize that they will criticize and not necessarily critique. Madam Speaker, the other issue is that the report itself cautions extensively on the role of the rule of law and constitutionalism. Madam Speaker, the national unity issue, to my understanding, is promoting cohesion and inclusivity. When we group ourselves along ethnic lines, are we actually expressing nationalism? Is that national unity? The reality is that to the large extent, Kenya is segmented into ethnic communities. How do we interpret national unity when we allow vernacular radios to take prominence in this particular country? And when any of us is aggrieved, you turn to the vernacular radio to try and express yourself. Honourable Speaker, that's an issue we need to deal with as a country. We need to promote national unity, and the report addresses this particular issue at large. Sharing and the devolution of powers with respect to devolution itself. Equitable resource distribution has to do with reaching the people. How much has devolution been able to do this? Out of the 47 counties as devolved units, and the resources being sent to these devolved units, Honourable Speaker, we need to see a lot more of development so that we can say Kenya has really done the right thing in the terms of terms of addressing the issues of devolution. Honourable Speaker, when you look at the human dignity, the respect and the protection of every individual's rights and obligations, in this particular respect, Honourable Speaker, the immediate previous speaker has, honourable member, has attested to the gender-based violence and especially femicide, which the report covers extensively. Everyone deserves the right, not just the right to live in this country, right to engage without any form of intimidation, without any form of discrimination. Honourable Speaker, there should be no, we should be, as Kenyans, there should be no one who is superior before the other as a country, as a people living together. We should always respect one another so that we can also be respected outside in this country. When you look at the issues of equity, which has to do with the fair distribution of resources, particularly to the marginalized groups, this country has made a lot of effort. And the report covers quite extensively on the effort that the government has done in consideration of the of ensuring that everyone is taken care of. Projects like the affordable housing program, which is distributed across the country, it has the constituency focus, which means every constituency is supposed to get their share. The ICT hubs are spread across the country, the NGCDF, the TVET, and others. Universities are now county-based. So it means every county it has an opportunity to have its own university. So equity is being exercised, and this is very well articulated in the report. When I was Speaker of Social Justice, about equal opportunities. In this country, pursuit for social justice has been terribly misinterpreted, and the report is very particular on Article 27, the misinterpretation of Article 27, where picketing is misinterpreted to mean violence, which is not true. Inclusivity, Honourable Speaker, the provisions on inclusivity have also been articulated within this particular report.
You can finish your sentence.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Let me conclude by saying that equality has also been looked into very, very carefully in this particular report. We have spread projects across the country, looking at different areas to make sure that every part of this country is developing. We have looked at the employment and labor migration, which has also assisted people across the scope, and the Equalization Fund, which has also looked at the areas that actually were behind others in terms of development. And therefore, this report articulates exactly what's happening in this country and the progress that we're making. Among others, the state of the economy has also been clearly articulated, as well as the state of food and nutrition and the cancellation of the contentious Adani contract. Thank you very much.
Okay. The Honorable Member for Laikipia West, Wachira Karani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice to this speech by His Excellency the President. I will start by saying there are so many things that His Excellency the President talked about, but because of limitation of time, I will touch on a few. And I will say, we Kenyans, we have a funny way of looking at things. Whenever a new idea comes, we are used to opposing the new ideas without, first of all, giving it an opportunity. I remember in the year 2002, Madam Speaker, when the third president of this republic, the late Mwai Kibaki, came into power. He introduced through his minister then, Honorable John Michoki, the late, transport mode where a Nissan, a microbus, will be carrying 14 passengers. Before then, people are used to microbuses carrying even up to that passengers. Now, people, I remember, majority of Kenyans opposed it. They were told the matatus would be driving at 80 kilometers per hour because they used to drive at over 150. They opposed it. They were told we were going to use safety belts. Kenyans opposed it. But when eventually the third president stood firm on it through his minister, today every Kenyan enjoys it. So even now, we are in a similar situation. When the president took over the reign of this country in 2022, Madam Speaker, he found the country was in very big loans. We had almost reached the ceiling for our loans obligations. The Kenyans complained that they are being taxed very highly, so there was no room for more taxation. So the president turned it to public-private partnership, and the Kenyans opposed. Now my question is, what do you expect him to do and his government? So we have to be lenient. I know I've done my research, Madam Speaker. I wanted to know, and I was very impressed when the president terminated the contracts for Adani, both in Kentraco and Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. I was very, very concerned. I tried to do my research to know why the Kenyans were against the Adani, and I found out Kenyans did not have a problem with Adani. What the Kenyans had problem with is the transparency that was used in getting those contracts. So in the future, if this country, my proposal is, if this country is going to enter into public-private partnership, that should be transparent. It should not be a single sourcing. We should give many organizations opportunity to bid for them, and then we get the most considerate figures. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Tharaka, Honorable George Murugara.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm also happy to get the opportunity to make a contribution as regards the President's speech during the auspicious occasion. Although I was away from the country that particular time, I was actually able to listen to the speech from Cape Town, and I must commend His Excellency the President because he actually tried to give the picture of the country as it is and as we progress with all the matters that should now be considered towards making our country move forward and in a better way. First and foremost, the President highlighted several laws that are to be enacted for purposes of good governance in the country. I'm happy to report that some of those laws actually have already been considered by this House through the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. And what is outstanding, what is outstanding and what he spoke to is the Conflict of Interest Bill. This is a bill of the National Assembly that was passed here some time ago. It was then taken to the Senate, where several amendments were reintroduced. And eventually, since this House rejected those amendments, we have had to have a mediation. I confirm to this House that the mediation committee was established and actually started sittings yesterday. And we do undertake that by the close of business this week, we should have a mediated version of the Conflict of Interest Bill now coming back to the House for passing. The president also highlighted on case tracking systems and e-filing for the judiciary, and in fact lauded the judiciary as the leader in technology in the government. These are very important steps the judiciary has taken to ensure that parties are informed of their cases in time and that the filing is done timelessly. The net effect is that delivery of services in the judiciary is actually improving and has continued to improve, as a result of which we now have more cases being determined on an annual basis. Madam Speaker, you actually headed this when you were in the judiciary. The ICT system that was introduced at that time is actually what is being improved on, and we must also laud you for that. We again had a presentation from the President regarding the Bill of Rights, which is also very important because of late we have had issues with what is being termed as abductions, forced disappearances. We have also had what they are calling extrajudicial killings. And we must, as advocates of human rights, condemn anything that is unlawful, which is being done by anyone from whatever quarter. We have always said as a country, we abide by the rule of law, and everybody is bound by the laws we have in the country, including the Constitution, the statutes, and the regulations made thereunder. If there are to be arrests by the police, those arrests have to be within the confines of the law. Any other criminal that goes on to abuse the law must be brought to book in a manner that is prescribed. We move this way, our country will continue to shine in the continent as one that is strictly governed by the rule of law. The president actually also highlighted on other aspects of life, including the CBC, where there have been questions as regards the preparedness of the country towards this. It's a new education system introduced. We know for sure it has teething problems. It also has shortage of infrastructure, but the country is moving towards this through our own CDF here and allocations from the ministry to ensure that the infrastructure is established, teachers are employed, and our children continue to get a best quality education. The president talked about the economy, which is actually improving, which is actually growing, including stabilizing our shilling. We are happy to see that we are now competitive when it comes to hard currencies, and our shilling is actually doing well. We are happy to note that inflation rates have gone down, evidence that our shilling is becoming stronger and stronger every day, and this is good for the country. Interest rates have gone down, which means we are able to borrow more money and bring this money into circulation in the country for purposes of growth. There was a mention of our agriculture, where we are boosting production. And again here, we must laud the policies which appeared unpopular in the first place, but which now have led to a boost in production, such that our silos are actually almost full in terms of food reserves. We have put in place measures to ensure that sugar production is improved, coffee production is actually highlighted, and mostly production of milk through dairy farming. The president emphasized that we actually need to put all the resources in the agricultural sector to ensure we boost our production for the sake of the country. We had universal health care, Taifa Care, where again we have the SHA and the SHIF, which are giving Kenyans nightmares. But from today, as we read in the press, things are now beginning to work. We said actually this was going to last 2-3 months, and soon all the systems will be in place, and every Kenyan will actually be able to get health care free. And in as much as Kenyans are complaining about the taxation on the universal health care and on the housing levy, we confirmed to the House that the laws that are just about to be introduced here, some of them are to ensure that Kenyans are taken care of, taxation is reduced, as a result of which the burden which was resting on Kenyans is actually eased. And as I conclude, there was a discussion on corruption, which is a vice that is eating into the flame of the country. What EACC now has actually a new CEO, because the one who was there has completed his term. We may not be able to discuss a lot about the new CEO, who is going to be subject to proceedings in the House, and those proceedings are not here at all. But the high time it gets a new CEO, and corruption, the vice that is eating to the flesh of the country, continues to be fought. We know very well that it is difficult to fight corruption because corruption fights back, but we must, under all circumstances, ensure that this vice is actually eradicated. The country cannot develop unless we do not have corrupt elements, corrupt practices, and the practices that are injurious to the welfare and the well-being of the country. All in all, the president gave a balanced speech, made assurances that it's not pledges that are being made, but now, slowly and slowly, it is becoming a reality that some of the promises that were made in the plan are actually being actualized. With those remarks, I do wish to rest my comments there. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Beatrice Ilachi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to give thanks to the address of His Excellency the President, and to really say that this was one address that was able to give the country a new face and to tell the country that we are starting a new trajectory to see the country move from where we have been, Madam Speaker, to a better country where every Kenyan will start appreciating what is happening in government. Madam Speaker, as I say that, you realize the President analyzed all the pillars that need to be touched so that we move as a country. One of the pillars was food security, which is critical in ensuring security is in the country when people have food on their tables, Madam Speaker. The other pillar was on universal health care, which he now calls it Taifa Care, which I think is a better name that we need to move. And I would tell you, Madam Speaker, for those who have now registered in SHA are starting to see how it works. And I want to tell every member of parliament here, it is our responsibility to ensure our people have registered so that we actualize Article 43. I want to call upon civil society. We've been fighting about health. We've been saying every day we must ensure the Maputo protocols and all the protocols we've agreed. But now is the time we actualize Article 43. And therefore, we must work together. We must see where the problem is. Let us first register Kenyans, then we come and now face government to tell them, look, we've registered people and they are unable to indeed be treated. Then that is where we start the fight again. Madam Speaker, it is a time when we have to criticize, but criticize in positive to see things work for our country. Because if it works for the country, it works for me, it works for everyone. It works for every family in the country. Madam Speaker, you realize the President also really talked about femicide. Madam Speaker, as we celebrate, as we start the campaigns of 16 days of activism, I know I lost a girl in a family that is very vulnerable in Dagoretti North. And this girl was a third year at MKU University, Vivian Kajaya. And we buried her. This girl was all the way, you imagine the mom is in Kawangware, your daughter is at the university at Mount Kenya University, but you find the body of your child in Nakuru. It was the most saddest thing. And even yesterday, we have those again who have passed on. And so I want to laud the president, but to say this to now the agencies that are dealing with all these cases, that indeed you've let us down. In fact, my prayer would be, Madam Speaker, we need officers to be taken for retraining to understand even these femicides, because we have officers who, even when they talk about gender-based violence, you realize they are thinking it is just crime like any other crime. But we have lost so many women. I don't think it is fair even for us in the country. But Madam Speaker, the other thing I want to really thank the president is to really bring out everything that the government has done that we have decided as a country to be very negative until there's nothing good we see. But we are not realizing, Madam Speaker, when you look at Burundi now, when you look at Nigeria now, you tell God thank you 10 times for your country, Kenya. And so I want Kenyans, even out there, even us who are going on media, we are analyzing, that the president, yes, has decided, yes, followed what has happened and cancelled Adani. The next thing you should be appreciating is we have cancelled, but not now starting to question again other questions. We need to be now questioning, how are we getting a new airport so that we can be like Ethiopia, Rwanda, Tanzania, who are moving and they're in East Africa, before we become a domestic airport place. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I just want to say it is important for us to thank God for what God has given us and appreciate we are better, we can do better, and Kenya is great. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Soro, member for South Mukirango.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to also speak to the presidential address by His Excellency the President in this House. Honorable Speaker, the President, in my view, spoke to the real issues that affect the common mwananchi. He's been in the past accused of not being able to be in touch of the things that affect the common man or the mwananchi. But from the presidential address that he gave last week, from his speech, I mean, really, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to identify the things that he said that directly touch on the common mwananchi. And the realities, despite the challenge that we have as a country, where people are naturally negative at times, and it's really a situation as we are facing right now. But I'll be very specific on the things that he spoke to, especially on the issues of health, the issues of education, and the issues of Adani, Honorable Speaker, and even the issues of the cost of living. Because it's a fact, we all live in this country, starting even from the issue of the cost of living, Honorable Speaker, that at the point the president took over power as the president of this country, the common commodities, the food prices in terms, the unga prices, which is our staple food, Honorable Speaker, was very high at that point. Not anymore, because of the measures that have been put to make sure we increase our production. That he spoke to, and it's a fact. He also spoke about the economy. He talked about the dollar. The exchange rate of the dollar against the shilling wasn't as it, is not as it were when he took over power. That is also a fact, Honorable Speaker. But more importantly, on a thing that touches on the common mwananchi, Honorable Speaker, that is so dear to so many of us, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the social health scheme, Honorable Speaker. Several people who do not really understand how the social health scheme works, Honorable Speaker, and who do not want to understand, are opposing a very noble idea, because on one point, you want leaders that you elect to bring change. I have never understood. But on the other point, when they bring change, you also raise questions and say we need to go back to the status quo. You complain that NHIF is not working. It hasn't been working. People are making unscrupulous claims, and that is on one part. Then on the other part, when there is a system that has been now, that is really been, that has been put in the market, or rather to the public, that is going to work, or that is working very well, you then again start saying, okay, let's revert back to the old system. I mean, really, then why do you elect leaders? Because you've got to elect leaders for change. And you admit the ideas, because you can't be complaining without offering a solution. Honorable Speaker, I want to quote a message, and I want to read this message that I received yesterday from my constituent about the social health system. Honorable Speaker, I read this message from one constituent. It's told me, good evening, Mheshimiwa. I wish I could get opportunity to thank His Excellency the President, but through you, the message is home. I'm from South Mogrango, Tabaka Ward, and a beneficiary of SHA. SHA has footed my dad's surgery hospital bill of 151K without paying a shilling. Honorable Speaker, these are people who are sending us messages when they had challenges to invite us for medical fundraisers. This is transformation. This is something that all of us should be celebrating, Honorable Speaker. And the President spoke in huge language, Honorable Speaker, encouraging members to also tell the members of public to register in large numbers, Honorable Speaker, because this is now what we call the universal health coverage system, Honorable Speaker, and it's really working, Honorable Speaker. So on this one, he spoke to the real issues. Then he spoke again to the issues that are bedeviling this country, the issue of femicides, the issue of the gender-based violence, where one wakes up one morning and decides to make his wife or girlfriend or a woman a punching bag, besides even killing them. Some of them torture them. And it's really shocking. I don't know whether it's a moral issue, or whether it's a devil that is now getting into people's heads, where you wake up one morning and you just want to, the person that you've lived with or you've been having a relationship with, you just decide to turn them into an animal and you want to punch them and hit them. Honorable Speaker, that is really a point that His Excellency the President spoke to, and we all condemn such. And finally, Honorable Speaker, this House has been accused over the issue of that at some point, some members of Parliament celebrated Adani when the deal was being proposed, and at another point, when the President sought for the withdrawal, that we clapped and gave him a standing ovation. I want to explain to the members.
1 minute, you finish the sentence.
I want to explain to the members of the public that it is indeed true. We celebrated initially when that proposal came to us, because number one, we agree to the fact that our airport is not doing well. We agree that it's not looking very well. We do not want to borrow loans to make it. Then we do not want, Honorable Speaker, to also do what? We have no other option of making that airport, Honorable Speaker, other than PPP, Honorable Speaker. So we were very happy that there was a PPP. But at that point in time, Honorable Speaker, we did not know that Adani had an issue of corruption. It was speculations and all those kind of things. Up until that morning, when the when America found him culpable of some corruption matters, Honorable Speaker, and as people, are patriotic Kenyans, we were happy that now, because we are fighting corruption, that is why the members of Parliament gave him a standing ovation, because he is fighting, he doesn't.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mandera South.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also air my views on the State of the Nation address by the President.
The Honourable Osoro, stop shouting across the House.
Thank you. Honourable Speaker, thank you very much for granting me this opportunity to also express my views on the State of the Nation address by the President. I would say, in summary, the President's speech was short, it was concise, it was hopeful and very forward-looking. Honourable Speaker, I can't agree more with the Majority Whip by saying that the President touched on key issues affecting Kenyans. Honourable Speaker, the President talked at length about the state of the food security in the country, and he had very good news for particularly the sugar farmers when he told the nation that out of the 17 sugar industries we have in the country, they are all now functional, up and running. And that for the first time since independence, we've had surplus of sugar production in this country. Honourable Speaker, the President also had very good news for the coffee farmers when he expressed the fact that now coffee farmers are enjoying good prices. Honorable Speaker, the President also talked about health, and he elucidated at length about SHIF and SHA, and he particularly drew a clear difference why Taifa Care under SHA is more superior than the former NHIF. Honorable Speaker, the President also addressed the question around education, and he particularly touched about the teacher crisis and how the country and the government is going about addressing the question of teacher crisis. He addressed the question of CBC and also addressed the question of the crisis in our universities now, when we have strike by lecturers and most of the students from universities are languishing at home without going to university. The President also addressed and condemned the question around disappearances and illegal arrests, and he termed it as a threat to life to Kenyans. The President also talked about wastage and corruption, and you can remember we had a standing ovation for the President when he particularly talked about the Adani deals and the fact that the JKI expansion work and the Ketraco power line expansions were both suspended or cancelled. Honorable Speaker, two things that I wish the President had addressed in his speech, which he did not. When the President talked about food security, and he really had good news for the sugar farmers and the coffee farmers, I wish the President also addressed about the state of the livestock farmers in this country. Livestock industry is an industry which is supporting about 10 million Kenyans in 14 ASAL counties. It contributes 12% to the GDP, and it contributes to 50% of the agriculture labor force. It is an industry which is affected by droughts and conflicts, and I wish the President addressed the state of the livestock industry in relation to the food security component that he addressed in his, and perhaps going forward, whenever we address the question on food security and agriculture, I think we should always make effort to address the question of livestock component of the agriculture sector. Honorable Speaker, I also wish when the President talked about enforced disappearances, the impression was that those people who've disappeared are only those ones who are missing after the demonstrations. In parts of Northeastern, there are people who have been disappearing under enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killings. In my constituency, for example, I have 3 of Kenyans who are missing since the last 6 months. Hassan Mali of ID number 26881584. Adan Mali of ID number 35332269. Abdi Ali Abdullahi of ID number 23490434. Are all my constituents who have been missing since the last 6 months. And I wish the President addressed the question of disappearances in Northeastern, not just the enforced disappearance after the demonstrations in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Narok, Honorable Tonke.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the Honorable His Excellency the President's speech. Madam Speaker, the speech of the President was very good, and we are very happy because as Kenyans, most of the issues that are facing Kenyans were addressed. Madam Speaker, when you look at the issue of gender-based violence, and you remember, Madam Speaker, you are one of the leaders who visited the President the previous day before he came to address the nation. Madam Speaker, the issue of gender-based violence is on the rise, and every day we wake up to killing of women by men. And Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that those people who are killing us are the people that we expect to give us leisure, and even us to contribute to leisure to them, and that they enjoy the company of women. But it's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that women are dying in the hands of the men that the women have entrusted to their lives. But Madam Speaker, the President committed, even on the previous day, that they are going to address this issue, and he addressed it that, Madam Speaker, as we requested him, that he should give women the gender-based desk should be taken to the hospital so that women can be addressed there. So that when a woman is taken to the hospital, for example, Madam Speaker, then the women should be given the P3 there, and the police should address that issue in the hospitals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this challenge is it's on an alarming rate, and Madam Speaker, we as women are facing this challenge, and we are really terrified that every day as we wake up, Madam Speaker, you are not sure that you're going to get home safely as a woman. Madam Speaker, when you look at the issue of the 3 women who were killed the other day in Isli, a mother and 3 daughters losing their lives, Madam Speaker, this is really scary. And therefore, Madam Speaker, is an issue that we are not going to stand as women. Madam Speaker, the President committed to also check on the gender rule, where more women will be given chances to be in leadership. And for the first time, Madam Speaker, many women have been given very many vacancies. For example, the CSS. In history, Madam Speaker, this is the first time that in the Kenya Kwanza government, the President has given us, as women, equal representation. Madam Speaker, the other issue that we are happy about is the issue of teacher recruitment. Madam Speaker, the President has committed to check on the education sector, where the child of the common mwananchi is going to get the right to education because of employment of teachers. Madam Speaker, we've heard the President employing 56,000 teachers. Among just the other day, 26,000 teachers, 46,000 teachers have been confirmed on PNP, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as we talk right now, we are having the recruitment of 20,000 teachers who are going to be also interns, and after 1 year, they'll be confirmed. So, Madam Speaker, looking at the Kenya Kwanza government, Madam Speaker, it is the first time in history that Kenya has employed the highest number of teachers in Kenya, in the history of this country. So, Madam Speaker, we are really applauding the President for giving the best speech and giving Kenyans hope that Kenya is on the right track, and we support the President for this, Madam Speaker, because, Madam Speaker, Kenya is indeed on the right track. And we want to tell Kenyans to look at the good things that this government has done, look at what the President is doing, and support the President, for he is actually working very hard for Kenyans. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Didi Raso, member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me thank the President for his bold and very focused speech. Madam Speaker, this is not the first government. This is the 5th administration of the Republic of Kenya. And within 2 years, Kenyans are saying, you have not fulfilled the election promises. I think some of the things we're asking, we must be very careful. This is the government that came into office, and they said that they found the national coffers empty. What is it that they can do to turn around the economy, to turn around education, health, and everything around in 2 years? There's no government that has bad intention for its people. And listening to the President of the Republic of Kenya last Thursday, I think he was clear, he was honest, and he was focused, and he was telling Kenyans, these are the problems that are there, and this is what I really want to do. Madam Speaker, on education, in the last administration, the CBC was the new education system that Kenya adopted. And many of us in the political space, we were very skeptical, and we really didn't want to proceed with CBC. But this administration And President William Ruto said, if Kenyans find CBC is a good system, that it is a foundational education that tends to look at skills development at very young age, then let it be. And a lot of professionals in that sector supported him. So today, the president has put in place the necessary infrastructure. Over 56,000 teachers have been employed so that this CBC can be a success. But still, they say Rome was not built in a day. There's no way that we are going to say that, why is this CBC? Why does it have teething problem? As Kenyans, we must begin to accept that there is no seamless system when you run a country. Secondly, Madam Speaker, is the issue of health. They say health is wealth. And when a country invests in health, then it simply means you are looking after your people. The health system in the UK, among the oldest in the world, it is still having a lot of problems. Yet, we have founded our own just 1 year down the line, and we are saying it is not working. It cannot just work on the spur of the moment. We must invest in it. We must have the necessary human capital invested, and we must also have that system which is able to move things around so that this health system works for the people. Madam Speaker, when we look at the health system, and Honorable Osoro talked about a single example of a Kenyan who feels that indeed this thing works. Madam Speaker, we are asking ourselves, why are people fighting this system? And we find that corruption and interested parties who have invested money in hospitals, in the health system, and few are benefiting from what should be a universal thing that all Kenyans should actually benefit from. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about security. In the northeastern, North Rift, the guns are silent. It is the stellar performance of this government. If many will not talk about it, few of us will talk about it. Because today our people are not killing each other. Rustling has gone down. This has happened as a result of investment by this government. Having new sub-counties, locations, sub-locations, so that they improve the administrative footprint of this government. And
in 1 minute. Proceed.
Madam Speaker, I really want to thank the President for the sub-county of Irret that belongs to the people of the Dasanaj. The few among the many minorities in this country who live on the border of Kenya and Ethiopia along the shores of River Omo and Lake Turkana, they have been given a sub-county. This is how focused, how this government looks at the faith and how minorities must be brought into the center of governance. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sirisia. I know you had stayed quite late yesterday.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance also to contribute on this state of the nation that was presented by His Excellency the President. The President, Honorable Speaker, spoke and touched to very many issues that affect the country, Honorable Speaker. Many people, many Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, had not understood our President but they are now coming to understand him. The president touched on employment of the young people in this country, Honorable Speaker, which is going on. Last month, or I don't know, this month we saw our people doing interviews to go to the diaspora to work, and many of them have been recruited. And he used to say that, but people were not sure. No, Kenyans to believe is another problem. Madam Speaker, this government is working under the leadership of President William Ruto. And what we should do as Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, is to support our president. He's trying. He took over the country when the economy had gone down. With the loans, Kenya had reached the ceiling. But, Honorable Speaker, the country is paying debts and is making sure that every sector, every department, every ministry, civil servants are getting salary, which is really working very hard to make sure that everything is on. And is a president who is hands-on on his job. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans were shocked have been shocked for two occasions. First, when the Gen Z came, they wanted the president to sack all his cabinet, which he did. The president listens to the citizens, to the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the finance bill, when we struggled in this House, Honorable Speaker, to make sure that it passes. And when we reached State House, the president said, no, I'm not ascending on it because Kenyan people does not like it. The attorney issue on that day in this House, Honorable Speaker, all of us were shocked. And this issue of members of parliament, the Honorable Speaker, clapping like school children, even me, I don't like it. We are honorable members. When, be it the president or who, pass something or reject, as members, there is a way of clapping, but not standing up and just misbehave like children, like school kids. Honorable Speaker, we are not supposed to. We are supposed to listen.
Point of order, Honorable Passaris.
Madam Speaker, I think I would like the member to withdraw misbehave like school children. Our school children do not behave badly. It is too generalized and too stereotyping. I want to say that when youth behave badly, we cannot even brand all the youth as bad behavior. It's just a select few that behave badly. And to say that they're behaving as school children, I think it's an insult to all the children that we have in this nation. Thank you.
Your point of order, Honorable Mboko.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. The House is a house of respect and honor, and it's the Argos House. The tradition, Honorable Speaker, of rising up in the event a speaker has touched the souls of people, has spoken on something that is touchy, is exciting and overwhelmingly magnanimous for the country or that particular group, is allowed. Honorable Speaker, the members of parliament are being misstrued for having risen up. That was very well in order. That's what's called a standing ovation. And I think the honorable member is not really in order to look at members of parliament who have behaved badly in any way. Standing ovations as respected moments of a great speaker when he's delivering his message. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member for Sirisia, I think you have to withdraw. And
Thank you.
apologize to the members.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is us. I know it is a house of...
No, I've just asked you to, are you withdrawing or declining to withdraw?
I withdraw, Honorable Speaker, but we need to have a way of let me leave it like that, Honorable Speaker. I've withdrawn
And your time is
and
running
apologize to the members. Honorable Speaker, the president, when he took over this country, he made sure that teachers are employed.
You can have half a minute to finish your sentence.
56,000 teachers were employed, Honorable Speaker. And also, it is for the first time Kenya wanting to export sugar to the other countries outside Kenya, Honorable Speaker. That is to show that our president is really working very hard to make sure that the collapsed factories are revived, and 17 of them are being revived, and we are happy with the work of the president, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
Us as a country and leaders of this country, Madam Speaker, we should support the government of William Ruto. We should support William Ruto as our president so that he continues building this country. Madam Speaker.
You have finished your minute. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Dagoretti South, Honorable John Waweru.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. And I need to make my contribution for the speech that was made by the President, the State of the Nation address. And to my mind, this was a very well-prepared speech and very well delivered. Madam Speaker, if this speech would be captured in one statement, it would be the analogy that the President used. The President, he himself said he is a farmer. And he said to us that if you're a farmer and you plant a seed, it would be very foolhardy of anybody to keep digging up the seed to see if it is germinating. Madam Speaker, if the Constitution of Kenya is a seed that we planted as a people, and we are here waiting to harvest the aspirations that we have espoused there as a people, if the Kenya Kwanza plan, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and all the other Marshall plans that are out there are a seed that have been planted, Madam Speaker, then it is upon us as farmers to be able to cultivate on these seeds, to prune them, to take care of them, and even to get to that garden and check if we are seeing progress. Madam Speaker, if the bottom-up economic transformation agenda was a seed that was planted, we should be checking 2 years later, are we harvesting anything? And Madam Speaker, from the President's speech, it is clear that there are parameters that are telling us that we are in the right direction, Madam Speaker. We are on a direction of recovery. The President enumerated some of the successes that we are all seeing, Madam Speaker, that if it is the price of fuel, Madam Speaker, it has been consistently going down month by month. If it is the cost of living, the price of unga is not where it was in 2022. And the President told us that if we were to put it in a word, it would be what the Swahili said, that ukiona vielea, ujue vimeundwa. That it took a change of policy, shifting from subsidizing consumption to subsidizing production. And that is what has led to the reduction of the cost of living, especially the cost of basic goods like unga. Madam Speaker, the inflation in this country, from a high of 9% to now to a low of 2.6%. The last time we were at an inflation rate lower than 3% is more than 17 years ago, Madam Speaker. So the point I'm making here is that yes, there are plans that have been put out there. Yes, there has been implementation going out. And yes, there has been results, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from the speech, the president is telling us that the situation is not business as usual. The situation calls for agility. It is calling for innovation. It is also calling for responsiveness, Madam Speaker. And that is why the president says that he is listening. And this House is also listening. And leaders are now being forced to listen, Madam Speaker, to hear what it is that the people are saying. Even as we become agile, Madam Speaker, as we become innovative, even as we become responsive, we also have to place responsibility where it has to be placed. Madam Speaker, it was in the president's speech that he spoke about the plans in the sector that the committee that I chair superintends on, the sector of the ICT and the digital economy. The president talked about rolling out 100 kilometers of fiber, about the Wi-Fi hotspots, about the digitization of government services, and even about the institution of digital innovation hubs, Madam Speaker. And for this to happen, Madam Speaker, it will not be just the work of the executive. It will take the cabinet to move on with him. The members of parliament have to also take their role, Madam Speaker, especially in the installation of digital innovation hubs, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even the ministries themselves, the agencies, will have to be way more agile. They will have to do that which the president is calling for us to do, to be innovative in the approach, to be responsive, Madam Speaker, so that we take this farm that we call Kenya as farmers, as the president drew that picture, and see that we have planted a seed that we all must take care of, that we all must prune if we shall harvest the fruits that are espoused in the national anthem that say plenty be found within our borders. Madam Speaker, it was a great speech. It is for us to now implement it. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Janet Sitiene, member for Turbo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to add my voice. I really want to take this opportunity to applaud our President for the great State of the Nation address. I was particularly very happy because the President gave a very, very good speech. The President's address, Madam Speaker, was very specific to the issues raised by Mwananchi and their aspirations. The very issues that the President took us through were measurable, achievable, and time-bound. The President, Madam Speaker, started by recognizing the issues raised by Mwananchi or the people of Kenya, which was a very good indicator that the President is alive to the issues bedeviling our nation. And that really made me very happy about our President. It also indicated or showed us that our President is a listening President. That is why he started by mentioning the issues bedeviling our people. He went ahead to give the progress and what plans he had to take this country forward. And Madam Speaker, I'm really happy that the progress he gave through affordable housing, there is enhanced food security in this country. And that is why, Madam Speaker, you may realize that for a while there has not been indication of need for food relief or distribution of food relief in this country because of affordable fertilizer and the favorable weather that the Lord blessed us with. So there was enhanced food security. Madam Speaker, the President also mentioned something that really excited me about improvement in the sugar sector. And he mentioned that we are already self-sufficient in terms of sugar production. And therefore, we don't need to import sugar anymore. We have sufficient sugar for our nation, and we are going to have more to export. And that really made me very happy because Previously, we have been importing sugar, and that is why we had a menace of contaminated sugar, which led to a lot of cancer to our people in this country. So the fact that we are going to be self-sufficient in sugar, it is going to improve our economy, it's going to help our people have money in their pockets, or the farmers, and that is something very good. Madam Speaker, the President also mentioned something on the economic growth, that we are on an upward trajectory, and he also said that he had put measures in place to increase the tax base, which is going to improve revenue collection in this country, and it is going to continue improving our economy. We are really happy about the President's address. He was able to mention about the declining inflation, whereby it has moved to 2.7 from 9.6 in 2022, which is a very positive trajectory in this country. Even the dollar now has gone down and has made the commodity prices go down. So we really want to thank the President, because he has listened and he has put measures in place that is going to improve our country going forward. Madam Speaker, I was really excited when the President said, when he ended by saying that this country is resilient. It is very true. Our country is a very resilient